Let's break the mold. Start believing and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Welcome to Wild on 7, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
And welcome back to Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast. I'm Ryan Carter here with John King. This is a Pull Tab Sports production. Special thanks to all the sponsors. We've got Duke Cannon, Aquarius Home Services, Jimmy's Salad Dressings and Dips, and we got some new news today.
Yeah, I don't know who it could be.
Boom. Yeah. And for those of you that are listening, we've got some sweet swag on right now because we've got a new partner, a new sponsor, and we are happy to introduce these guys to the show. It's Wild Construction. You might be thinking, wait a second. Are the Minnesota Wild getting into the construction game?
I think that's what a lot of people were thinking.
And they might, and you can understand why they would think that because
they're building towards something.
And this podcast is under construction. Yep. We're evolving, more sponsors, things are being built, and it brick by brick, so to speak, right?
God, you're doing great.
Wild Construction is not a Minnesota Wild entity. They're their own thing. Oh, yeah, baby. We're talking about roofing, siding, windows. These guys do it all. You got to check them out. It's wildconstructionmn.com. Locally owned, locally managed. They care about what they do. Wild Construction. We've got the swag on. Check them out. They will make it happen. They take pride in their work, which is something actually I love about these businesses. They take pride in their work. Wild Construction, new sponsor. Love these guys. Check them out. Another thing I actually didn't know, I learned on this phone call, is that these guys will still do siding and windows all winter long. They can't do the roofs because they've got the snow and all the other issues, but man, they're still grinding throughout it. So
is that their tagline? They will make it happen.
Yeah, they'll make it happen.
That's their thing.
Yep,
they'll make it happen. That's good that's good. I like that line.
Wild Construction. Thank you. And new sponsor, boom, we're on it.
Good merch too, real cozy.
So let's get back to New Year.
Happy New Year, Ryan.
Yeah, and we'll go back to 2022. We'll recap it a little bit. Good year, but it ended a little too fast with the Wild losing to the Blues in the playoffs. And it's kind of funny how that year kind of went. It was big game, Winter Classic. St. Louis comes to town, and boy, they get a lot of swag coming off that bus in their Hawaiian gear, shorts and T-shirts, and they kind of rinse the Wild in the Winter Classic. They go on to have a pretty good year, win their first round of the playoffs, and I think they ended up getting bounced by Colorado, but good year for St. Louis. They lose David Perron, a couple other pieces, but it looks like the same team kind of coming back, but some of their young studs might be better, like Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas. Can these guys take a step? And St. Louis was a team that I thought was going to be, maybe top tier, and maybe one of those teams that could dethrone Colorado in the West a little bit. And boy, it's been the exact opposite. They look like a shell of themselves. So all of a sudden, almost one whole calendar year later, the Wild match up again with St. Louis, this time in St. Louis. And
we just left body bags all over
St. Louis. Body bags. Yeah, like there's news.
Tarasenko dead. Ryan O'Reilly dead.
Tara Snipe Show on IR. Yeah, Ryan O'Reilly, who I think we said his name once in the during the broadcast.
And he's minus 25 or something. I mean, this is insane. This is like one of the greatest, manly, solid hockey players when you need him to be. And he's like a minus 20. I don't know what's going on in St. Louis, but it's upside down.
He was minus 26. He had never been in a Blues sweater, never been anything but double-digit plus.
Yeah,
so
plus
he's
70 or something.
Yeah, and all of a sudden now he's minus 26. They can't keep the puck out of the net. You've got Binnington, who he's a wild card, and loses. He likes to play the puck, and ironically, I think that if you were watching that game, you're like, where was this during the playoffs? The gaffes, and he wasn't sharp, and but yeah, he gave 2 to Ryan Hartman, so a nice New Year's gift for Ryan Hartman.
They scored first, right? I just remember thinking, I even turned to my daughter, we were watching it, and I just said, God, the Blues just own the Wild. I thought we were going down the path again. And then we put him in a body bag. It was great. Yeah. Great way to end the year. I do want to talk about this Dallas game first, though, because this was the game, right?
Yeah.
10 days off before, 5 days off after at home. And I didn't watch it, okay? So I wanted to hear it's almost sometimes better to watch it out of the corner of your eye. I was out to dinner, saw like 43 shots. I heard that it could have been worse. Fleury kind of kept us in it. Something about face-offs was a disaster. And how much was that a telltale sign that there's a gap between us and Dallas, or what did you make of it?
I don't think that there's much of a gap. I wouldn't make much of the face-off thing. I don't know. Colorado was 28th in the NHL last year in faceoffs, and they won a Stanley Cup, right? And you can say that faceoffs don't really matter until like the moments that they matter. So like when you lose one and the other team scores in your D zone or things like that, like neutral zone draws. Like it doesn't matter.
That's like shooting guns doesn't matter
until it hits somebody. Yeah. That's like breaking the law, right? Like nothing's illegal till you get caught. Right.
Okay, kids listening at home. That was Ryan Carter, former Stanley Cup champion Ryan Carter.
Yeah. But no, in all honesty,
what did you take? Like, what was your assessment of the game? Like, they outshot us significantly. That this is again out of the corner of my eye at a restaurant. What was your summary? Like, well, we just didn't have it. Not our best game. They beat us. No big deal.
Yeah, no. And again, with the faceoffs, they had possession. That's a good team, good faceoff team. I think they're built to where they have a couple guys on each line that can take draws, and the Wild had an off night in the dot. But I think you have to pick which side of the faceoff coin you want to be on. Do they matter? Do they not matter? The Wild are a good possession team, despite the fact that they're not a good faceoff team. How is that? And that can probably create an argument for you to say like faceoffs, like they're not terribly important. So I wouldn't say like, oh my gosh, Dallas is a better team because they can win draws. No, that's not it. With Dallas, I'm impressed with their game because what they have are veteran guys that are not the fastest players, right? So it's Joe Pavelski, Jamie Benn. Some of their guys that they rely on offensively aren't they somehow fit in today's game, but they're not like.
It's a bit like O'Reilly last year.
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. This is not a young guy, but it's almost like they slow it down, and then it's like a beer league team.
But at the same time, they somehow play fast. So they're guys that you don't know, like Johnson and some of these other younger players. They've got pace, and I think that caught the Wild by surprise. That you're like, oh my gosh! Like I'm looking up here, and it's Pavelski, Ben, Sagan on the back nine, and I think I should be able to handle these guys. And all of a sudden, I feel like I'm on my heels all night long. And they didn't dust the puck off. They played fast. They got north in a hurry, and throughout the game, I think that just had the Wild feeling like they were defending most of the game. And, you look at the shot discrepancy, I think that's a big reason why, is that Dallas just went north with the puck and kept it simple, played well. And, it wasn't a track meet. I do think that the track meet probably would play into the hands of Dallas, but they didn't let like the grief line get rolling offensively, like hold the puck in the O-zone, and it was like one and done for the Kaprizov line. But Dallas they were a good team. I just think you touched on Ryan O'Reilly and comparing him to Pavelski and these guys. You just keep waiting for Dallas and those guys to kind of come back down to earth and regress and be like, hey, like
they do remind, but they do remind me of St. Louis last year in the sense of Kyrou and Robert Thomas, and so they got the counterpunch with Robertson and the young bucks, but then they got the old guys hanging around that really know how to win, including Suter and all these guys on the backside. So they're a scary team, especially with the goaltender now.
Yeah, Ottinger's good, but it looks like you can get inside Ottinger's kitchen.
Well, so that was a treat.
Like
so the fact that I hadn't watched that goal till moments before this podcast, and I had the absolute pleasure of watching Carell laser a puck off the back of Ottinger's goalie helmet and into the net deliberately. I really do think if you score that way, you should get 1 point. So
in the game,
the Dallas gets 1 and we get 1. They're like, well, I know you won, you outshot them 43 to whatever, but the goal off your head, the back of your head, a vulnerable position, that's 1.
Yeah,
that's 1 point out of 2.
Like when you fleece them, because that's what he did there. He fleeced them. It's like,
I used to try to go between guys' legs and playing basketball all the time. I was not a good basketball player, but if I could somehow dribble between a guy's legs, it was almost like
You already won.
I'm good. Like I mean, I did that to you. So
Yeah, 2 points
imagine what I
won.
could do if I spent more time with basketball. I think that's amazing. And it was such a small area. It's like that was like some Top Golf stuff, right? Like he had to see that little target, that little thing that stretches out on the back of your head. What do you think that's like for Ottinger?
Yeah.
To look back in the net and be like, we won.
Sometimes you have to tip your cap, but let's talk about what that goal tells us as fans, because I think this is important.
I want to hear this.
Yeah. So you talk about hockey sense, and I think people throw that word out, like, does your kid have hockey sense? Like this kid or this draft pick has great hockey sense.
Yep.
That this goal illustrates Kaprizov's hockey sense, right? So he's working through information in his mind so fast that he can understand where he is, and he's in a corner with his line mates, and it's like a log jam down there. So he already has processed the information that I don't have an out.
As you're describing this, I'm picturing Terminator though, where it's like a screen in his head. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
Like
then
on
there's
his
like
visor on the inside, it's like
and it goes, what does he say in Top Gun? I'm switching to guns, right? Like he's got the red dot and it, missile lock, and he just fire. I mean, he is like, it's just a different processor.
Yeah. So he recognizes that there's a pile up there. He's got no outs. Like he makes great passes, right? Like he's got good vision in that situation. Like he knows it's hockey sense. Like I've got nothing. They've got people on me. What am I going to do? And then to all of a sudden have the creativity and the wherewithal to say, okay, I'm going to throw this one on the net. Where do I have a chance for it to go in?
Off the back of his noggin.
The only thing is off the back of his head. The goalies hug the post from the shoulder down. Like it's very hard to score from it, for sure, that deep behind the goal line on a bank shot off a goaltender's equipment. The only spot is off the head. And with the way that the goalie helmets are like shaped, it's like a V kind of, that will go in because the angle of the puck off of the side, boom, back of the net.
So Carell's also good at, that's geometry. Like he's great at that.
Like it's unbelievable. Think about all that information that this dude's processing.
I know.
In that much time. And then all of a sudden, boom, back of the net. And it's like special, but it's like
I should have him hang
time.
I'm going to have him hang my televisions in my new house because he wouldn't even need a balance. He'd just be like,
it's amazing.
Right here.
So just on one hand, it's the information and the thought process to be able to come up with that idea, that thought in that moment is amazing. And then to have the ability to execute it. That is a tight window, man. You're hitting somebody's ear hole.
And that's why he
nails it.
That's why we deserve 1 point. So I want to, this is something I've been saving because I'm nervous to propose this because you might just completely humble me. But I noticed something in the St. Louis game. You did the game. Something happened only once in that game, and it involved the gentleman we're talking about. He did something which I haven't seen him do before.
Turn the puck over?
Nope. He does that sometimes. He took a face-off, and he won it easily.
Snapped it back.
Carell needs to take face-offs.
So
this is just, now I want to know if I'm a rube, I'm a fan, 97, blinking in my eyes all the time. I'm watching the game, I'm thinking, okay, we got a problem with face-offs. You're telling me Kirill Kaprizov can't win a damn face-off? I don't care about all this center, wing, whatever. The guy should take face-offs. A lot.
You want more?
That's my hot tip. Put him in the dot. The guy that can put goals off the back of goalies' helmets, and as much as he loves hockey, you don't think he's going to be out here at Tria figuring out how to win faceoffs? You don't think Wes Walls can walk down the hallway with him for 5 minutes and he goes, "Oh, now we have puck more. I win." I mean, come on. Why are we not doing this? Is that crazy?
So I'm trying to think of an argument why you wouldn't want to do that.
I mean, did you see the faceoff he took? The puck came back and almost went out of the zone.
Yeah. So
that's the only time I've seen him take a draw all year.
We could look that up, see how many draws he's taken on the year. be surprised if he hasn't taken him 4-4 in a situation like that. But
Just a hot tip. Dean,
but
closed circuit to
like
Dean.
any reason why you wouldn't do it?
Because then he's not there to catch the puck after you win it.
Connor McDavid takes faceoffs.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like,
Sidney Crosby takes faceoffs.
and he also,
Austin Matthews takes faceoffs.
and the other thing about Kirill is he's essentially a center.
Because of the way he distributes?
Mostly because of how he plays in the dirty area. He really does play like Sid. He's behind the net. He's in front of the net. I don't know that he's always deep enough in the defensive zone. He probably isn't because he's a wing. But he has a lot of the characteristics of a center.
Yeah.
And we sit here and, we don't have a center. We're building a non-traditional hockey team and all this stuff. I don't know. Maybe just put him on the dot. I don't know that he needs to become a center or whatever. He seems like he's doing pretty well. But I was just like, if we can't win faceoffs, it's no different than when Pavelski's at, Top Golf and is the best at it. And then they go over and play, pop a shot and he wins it. Kirill he's going to be good at it.
Yeah. We've talked about this on the podcast in the past.
So you support that kind of.
And here's another reason.
I thought you were going to just dismantle me like a chicken wing.
Here's another reason why, like face-off theory, what I found in my time is that, and I would say this sometimes if I was struggling and I had another winger that could take draws, I would say, or vice versa, when I was on the wing and the center was struggling, I'd be like, just absolutely cheat. Cheat as much as you can.
This is your 50-50, and if you wings help me win a couple, then I'm 60?
No, this is a different plan for winning a face-off. Because what ends up happening when you're a center, you know that matchup. Like, you know that guy, you've been against him, you've either been good that day or you've struggled, but you know that dude, right? And you know he's a centerman, so like automatically you think this guy's going to be pretty good at draws. What happens is when that center gets kicked out, the other center, the one that remains in takes a log off the fire, so to speak. They relax a little bit because it's like, okay, this is going to be easy now. We got a wing coming in. He's not even holding the stick, right? There's no chance he's going to win this. And you can all of a sudden just bear down, and then you can out kind of compete and surprise that center. It would happen all the time. So I would say to wingers, or even when I was on the wing to the middle, say cheat. If you are allowed to cheat and take the draw, good. Mm-hmm. You got a better chance of winning it. If you get kicked out, I'll come in with great intensity and be ready to take this draw. Like, it's our plan. Yeah. We're ready.
So basically kind of be a spaz in the dot and you'll win more.
Well, if you are a spaz in the dot, a lot of it comes down to like who wants it more. Yeah.
It's not cerebral, you're saying. It's like, it's not rock, paper, scissors, right?
Yeah. It is cerebral though, because that's the competitive advantage is I'm slightly more aware of you than you are of me. So that's going to be my competitive advantage.
And all I think about is if there was like a theme park, there's a little thing at the state fair and you can take draws. And Kirill Kaprizov happens to be at the fair that day and he goes in there and takes 10 draws or 20 draws. He's not walking out of there with like 30%. And everyone's like, oh, that's surprising.
Right.
Kirill can't win a faceoff. So I'm like, I don't know. I think we overthink some of this stuff. If Mikko Koivu was awesome at taking faceoffs, I think 97 can probably figure it out too.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm still perplexed and floored that Eriksson Ek, not floored, but I'm surprised that this guy doesn't.
What's his percentage?
55. He's probably 48-ish, 49-ish.
Okay. That's weird because
he's gone up every year, like 1% every year.
That's good.
Yeah. So unfortunately, if he was going to be a 55% kind of guy, we're going to
wait about 6 years.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait till he's...
And then right when he wins the draw, he's got to get off. Ecker. We should talk about him, though. He is having a hell of a year. So he's got 28 points through 36 games. Last year, 49 points total in 77 games. So he is really playing better hockey than he ever has. He's a huge part in a season that's been uneven for so many. He's been just a stalwart. He's just a great element of this hockey team, Eriksson Ek.
Well, and the amazing part is the line that he had so much success on last year
has been broken up the whole season.
Yeah, they've struggled to stay healthy and to be a group and out there together. And then when they are together, they're playing well, but they're not scoring. Marcus Foligno has 10 points. Jordan Greenway, he was struggling to find offense in that Dallas game. He hits the post with a rebound shot that would have been the tire, and you could see in his body language it was like
Oh, when he finally scored the empty netter and was just laying there, he's like, thank God.
But how much, that's what I was talking about with the Sammy Walker empty netter. Like sometimes you need to throw those cookies to the guys that
you got to release the radiator.
Yeah. The guys that are working like that. And you can see the pressure relief when Green, I talked to him after the game on the airplane too. He's like, dude, after that, I was like relieved, but I was embarrassed at the same time. I wanted to get off the ice as fast as I could. It's like he felt like it was ugly.
Yeah, he lost an edge.
So desperate that, that he was just doing anything he could to put this puck in the back of the net.
The kids would say it was sweaty.
But Eriksson Ek has produced this way without that line having like offensive viability. It's power play. It's 4-on-4. It's really kind of remarkable. I mean, and the power play's been great. It has. So
he's like 15, but he's trending to like 15 points above last year. I mean, he's in the 60s or 70 points when he was 49. So he's been great. Spurgeon's been great. It's funny. Spurgeon was always kind of a tricky one for me because he's this kind of smaller guy. He's sort of quiet. He had the famous moment at the start of last season where Billy's like, Billy's, what are we here for? To have fun. And so I was was always kind of watching him, trying to figure him out. And man, has he been a leader? Even if I don't know how vocal he is, it doesn't really matter. But on the ice this season, he just looked like a captain. I just think he's been awesome. His plus minus is crazy. He's scoring. I think him and Ek have really had this in a year where everybody's sort of trying to, figure out if they overachieved the season before or not. A couple of these guys are actually doing better than they did last year, him being one of them. I mean, are you noticing that, or you just think that's how he always plays?
I think that's how he always is, and that's where you hear his name being tossed out there whenever people talk about like unheralded players, guys that don't get the recognition that they deserve, and he's one of them because he does a lot of those things when it's brought to your attention, and then you look at it with a close lens. He does a lot of that stuff consistently.
He's been great.
We talked about this, I think 2 weeks ago, that a lot of times careers, seasons, everything comes down to moments. And, Goligoski, overtime winner, 1,000th game ceremony, a moment.
Yep.
Jared Spurgeon created a moment too, and I think it's a significant one. It was in the Anaheim game on the back check. Troy Terry, their sniper.
Pop stick.
Boy, just the full out dive.
Yeah.
Stick underneath, picks the puck off of Troy Terry.
Great.
And Terry had no clue what was going on, surprised them, but it was effort and a play from the captain like that. And I do think that as simple of a play as that can be, it's not like scoring a goal, it's just effort on a back check and a good stick, right? That really sent him off on a different trajectory, but it also like sparked the club. And one of those moments, and I think that's what you're asking, and that's what you need your leaders for in critical times and spots. They were kind of flat that game too. In those critical spots, make a play, create a moment, and he does that.
It was kind of a holy smokes moment.
Yeah,
is what I would say. Because if I were looking for a sensible snack, maybe some pretzels, maybe you're watching the Winter Classic. Maybe you're watching the World Juniors. Get a little veggie spread. Get out some Jimmy salad dressings and dips. Maybe dill, spinach, ranch, or the Holy Smoke Smoky Dip, which I've heard is kind of hard to find. I had a listener reach out and say, I've kind of been scouring the store looking for the Holy Smokes, but you got to try a little bit harder. You got to get a playoff mentality. Minnesota company, third generation, started by their crazy grandpa. That's Jimmy's salad dressings and dips. Don't ya be messing with my dressing.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I kind of set myself up there, but
that's all right. Sometimes goals are unassisted. You get the takeaway and you get the finish all in one.
That's right.
It's kind of nice.
It's like Hartman. Bennington just passed that right to me.
Yeah. So I guess we'll go back to back unassisted.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Aquarius Home Services. I had the kids over last night, New Year's Day skating party under the lights.
Both teams or one team?
My daughter's team, 10U.
Okay.
And I was thinking, and we've had I've got the ice rink out back. Hot water is the ticket. Aquarius Home Services, they do it all, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, electrical, you name it, they've got it. I need to rely on their plumbing. And here's why. I need hot water to my back spigot, and I need a plumber to come over here and figure this one out. They say things come in threes too. Remember the stories where I lost my teeth? It was like three. I had them for 9 straight years, and it was 3 in a row. Lost
3
them.
bad things. Yeah.
My humidifier goes out, and it's spraying water all over the.
When has this happened?
This happened like Christmas.
Oh, no.
Day?
Jeez.
No, the day after, the 26th. Christmas Day, the dishwasher went.
Oof.
And now the rink, I need hot water to the back spigot because it's starting to get cold and freeze back there. So I will be calling Aquarius Home Services Plumbing to get those issues dialed because I want to spend time on the rink, not in my utility room. I'm going to leave all of that home systems to the pros. That's Aquarius Home Services. Check them out, aquariushomeservices.com, earning the right to be recommended.
Well done, sir. Well done. We should mention we got a guest today. First para-athlete ever put into any Hall of Fame ever, Mr. Steve Money Cash. The best, basically the best sledge goalie of all time. He's like the Patrick Waugh, Marc-Andre Fleury, Martin Brodeur of sledge hockey, and we'll get into that in a bit. But I wanted to get, you said you're not watching Yellowstone this year?
I'm not watching the Stone, no, and it's
You call it the Stone?
The Yellowstone,
okay.
sure.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Why? What's going on?
The acting's just atrocious. It's bad. And I think they're pounding some of the points into the, I don't know, the script a little bit too much. Like, we get it, Beth Dutton, you're tough as nails, but like settle down a little bit.
Yep.
I love Rip. But then whatever. Some of the acting is bad. That's why.
Oh, maybe Jamie you're thinking about? Maybe
well, Jamie's bad, but also Casey's wife is maybe.
Oh, Monica.
She's struggling.
Well, I do think they're going to kill her off, so look forward to that. So here's why I want to reference. So I think this season of The Wild is similar to this season of Yellowstone.
Okay.
Because some people are complaining that it's a little bit like it's a little more boring, because last year it was like, you'd come home from the game, Mom, there was a Superman punch and Erickson Heck had a hat trick and oh my God, everything was like, there was an overtime and we pulled the goalie and somebody scored on themselves and it was just madness. And this year it's more like, what were you guys up to? Well, it was, just hanging out, shot some pool. Hartsey had a couple. There's a couple new guys, Mason Shaw, he's a nice guy, he's been around. And so, but when you watch a TV show like Yellowstone, and it's slow, what people will say is, well, they'll say two things. It's a Western. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be slow. You're supposed to watch them go on a cattle drive and maybe brand stuff and listen to some Zach Bryan at the county fair. And they usually say it's slow because they're building. They're building it. They're getting you ready for John Dutton against this guy. And, I think that's what this hockey season's like. We're building, and hockey is a Western, I think. And you really feel that when you get to the playoffs, right? If you've been sitting, regular season success to me is like when you see a family at a restaurant and the kids are wearing headphones, like playing on their iPads. It's like, yeah, that's okay. That seems like a good night, but it's not. And when it gets real and it's a Western and you're sleeping on the ground, I don't know, man. I really think we're building. I think we're going to get over the top this year. And to me, even winning a round is progress. But I mean, that's to me all that matters.
Are you building in like a safety valve? Like even just winning a round. It's like a.
I am saying that we have to win a playoff round, or I'm going to be deeply devastated. I'm not saying that's all we could do. I would like to win the cup. We're here till it's here. I mean, that's the whole premise of this podcast. But I think it's similar to. I really do. I think it's similar to this season of Yellowstone, which I'm enjoying. I'm fine with a little landscape sequence. Watch the cattle. That's what we're getting. Hey, we beat Winnipeg. You just kind of sit there. Yeah. Hey. I mean, we did have Krill shooting pucks off the back of guys' heads, so I don't know where that's more of an IMAX.
That's taking Dallas to the train station.
It is. It
Took him
is.
to the train station.
I'm really
Deleted
happy.
that,
I'm
dude.
really happy.
You know who else is building something? Our man Steve Cash. He's building quite the trophy case. The guy's got gold medals, ESPYs. That's amazing.
Yes.
Let's bring this dude into the show.
Yeah, nobody better. First para-athlete ever. Best sledge goalie of all time, Mr. Steve Cash. All right, we're back here with Steve Cash. Best I can tell, like, you're the young blood of para ice hockey. Came in as a 16-year-old, and did you ever go on a run as a goaltender for USA Hockey? And now having a really special honor getting into the Hockey Hall of Fame tonight. Congratulations, first of all. What does this mean to you, looking back at your career, and hopefully you've had some time to reflect? How's it all piecing together?
Yeah, when I first got the call, it was definitely an unbelievable moment. Pat Kelleher of USA Hockey did the honors, and it was definitely special to hear. But then you look back and you think about everyone that helped you get to that point. But personally, when you're playing games and you're practicing and you're training, you're not necessarily thinking, okay, this is what's going to get me into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
This is what's going to make me a Hall of Famer. You're thinking, this is what's going to help my team win. So, in practice, you think about the finer details. You're thinking about the next game, and you're thinking about getting, another gold medal strung around your neck for your teammates. Because in the end, that's the special part about it is going through the grind with, those 16, 17 other guys, and just getting to know them on a personal level. And then, you just never know where you're at, you're going to be at the next season, or even the next day. So you're trying not to take each day for granted. But then, I look back and this was definitely a collective effort from everybody that's been involved. I was fortunate enough in 2010 to be an ESPY award recipient, the first one in the sport. But that, you think about the Vancouver run that we had, I only had like 30-something shots, and that was a testament to how good of a team we had that year. And I think the sport's only grown from there in the States. Just to be able to see where we're at now, it's definitely promising for the future. So I think this just is a stepping stone for the next generation of sled hockey players to come.
How rare is it to come in as a 16-year-old? I mean, when I look at your bio, it kind of jumps out at me. Like, were you sort of a prodigy in the sport and in the position?
It took me a while, just like with a goalie, naturally you need time to mature. So it did take me a while to get to a certain comfort level in the sport. But there have been other kids that have made it at 14, 15 years old on a Paralympic team. So I wouldn't say that I was an anomaly, but I definitely happened to be in the right place at the right time. I started the sport in 2004. There was a need for goaltending. There still is a need for goaltending in the sport. It's just something that we've had to deal with because when kids get into a sled, naturally they want to be a part of the action all the time. And there are times where, you're in a lull and you sit there for minutes at a time without any action. So, the parents want to see the kids get involved in the game. So it's hard to see up and coming goaltenders and be able to groom them for the next stage. But when I first started, it was, I'd already fell in love with hockey. I'd played stand-up hockey at a young age. I had already been used to the team aspect of it. So I already had kind of that foundation. And, I guess somebody saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And, they wanted me to get into a sled, and I tried out, 6 months after being in a sled, and, I had a really good tryout, and it's kind of ironic. The other goaltender that was on the U.S. team at the time had actually been my mentor for the last 6 months. So, I'm fortunate that he was around to help me out, and he might not take credit for it, but he has a lot to do with the success that I've had in my career.
What was your style like as a netminder? Like, how would we've got Fleury here in Minnesota, and he's kind of painting everything with a brush. He's very dynamic, sliding around. What were you like as a goalie? What were you known for? You have any signature, style to your game?
I was always very aggressive. My teammates like to poke fun at me because there would be times where there's a battle for the puck, and one of the other teams, guys on the team, is racing for it, and so I decide, okay, I'm going to come out to the top of the circles and I'm going to challenge him to try to beat him to this puck. Sometimes I got burned, but that was just part of my game. Is I was going to try to best you in each and every play, and so I wasn't necessarily the most timid in net because my stature, is 5'6", 5'7", doesn't necessarily lend a lot of,
You're not filling the net.
Spatial coverage. Yeah. No, not at all. So I had to, think of ways that that I was going to challenge the shooter, and then I took a lot of pride in being agile and quick in the net. So, as the game has evolved, you're not necessarily thinking about what your weaknesses are as much as you are how can I beat this guy. And so it took a lot for me to get to that point in my career, but I would say that it definitely worked out for the best.
So teach us, pretend I don't know, because I've watched your sport before, but I don't know that every listener has. Para ice hockey, introduce us to it and how it works. Is it the same 3 forwards, 2D, goaltender, same rules? Let us know.
Yeah, a lot of the dynamics are the same as stand-up hockey. Obviously, the mechanics are very different as far as skating, shooting, things like that. But just a general rundown that I would explain to somebody that comes up to me on the street and asks is you're basically sitting in a bucket that's wrapped around your hips. There's a frame that protrudes from the bucket that your feet are attached to. We also have double amputees in the sport that don't have that, so their sleds are shorter, which gives them more agility and more ability to handle the puck in tight situations. And then underneath the frame is mounted a bracket with 2 skate blades, just like you'd see on skates. So, in that aspect, it's the same. But what kind of separates us is we have the ability to use 2 hands. So skaters have 2 sticks, 1 in each hand, that are roughly 2 to 2.5 feet long. And so on one end is the blade, and that's kind of where you're positioning your hands to start skating. The higher up on the sticks, the more leverage you're going to get. And so once you want to handle the puck, you obviously slide your hands down and you can handle it underneath your sled with either hand. And then at the end of those, the butt end of the sticks are metal picks that allow you to dig into the ice. And that's what gives you the ability to propel yourself. The sport has gotten to a point where there's many guys out there where you wouldn't be able to tell if they're right-handed or left-handed. Yeah. And a notable one would be Declan Farmer, who I would consider is the prodigy in the sport. He started at a very young age, and he's proved himself to be the best in the world. But to this day, I played with him since 2013, I believe, and I still don't know if he's right-handed or left-handed. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Let's get into your story. So from St. Louis, and 3 years old, you had your leg amputated, bone cancer.
Yes.
And then tell us about when you got started from that point on into playing hockey and how it took off.
Yeah, we weren't necessarily a hockey family growing up. My dad was a big football fan, his dad was also a huge football fan. So, he was used to the sports aspect, watching sports. I was always used to having a Cardinals game, a Blues game, a Rams game on. And so, that part of it, I was used to, but the hockey aspect, it was really just born in the backyard. And I had 3 older brothers growing up, so you can imagine that there was no sympathy given there. So we always had our tiffs, but I think in the end it made me tougher, and that's what gave me the grit to be able to achieve greater things, because there's going to be days where it's not necessarily things aren't necessarily given to you. So I kind of carried that attitude with me along the way, but I did start in inline hockey, and I've always been a goalie. And I can remember skating, I'd skate 4 to 5 miles to the local park and just shoot the puck around, or if they needed a goalie, I'd be there. So hockey was always ingrained in my blood. And then, my parents saw that was something that we all loved to do. And they made sure that 3 of us made it through hockey, did whatever we wanted to do. And for me, it was my escape. So I was, having been on able-bodied teams before, I never saw myself as disabled. And when I heard about the sport of sled hockey, at first I kind of grimaced. I was like, it's really not for me. I have dreams of making the stand-up team. I have dreams of playing, being like, Ryan Miller. Like I wanted to play with the USA jersey on, but in the Olympics. And then I saw a video of the 2002 Salt Lake team winning a gold medal, and I was like, it's basically the same thing. There's no difference here. And then when I went out to the rink to try it out, you get out there and you gain a tremendous amount of respect for the athletes and what they can do, regardless of the hand that they've been dealt in life. And so I think that adds a unique aspect to the sport. Is everyone's on a level playing field, no matter what they were born into. If you had spina bifida, if you had your legs amputated at a young age, if you're in the military, it doesn't matter. Everybody gets on the ice and they're all considered the same. And I really love that part of the sport. I think it's what really drew me into, wanting to get to know anybody and everybody in their background. And that was always interesting to me. And so, hockey was always a love for me. But getting to know the guys and where they've come from, I think was an added bonus. And so you see the people that come up and where they've come from, and it's always just great to hear the triumphs that they've been able to make.
And I think that's overlooked so much. When we work with the Hendrickson Foundation, people forget that these are just hockey players at the end of the day. And I remember it was a snowy day, not unlike yesterday, and a lot of the guys were having trouble getting into the rink because of the wheelchairs and stuff. And if somebody wasn't having trouble and another guy was stuck, it was just like, sucks to be you, man. I mean, this was not a Gatorade commercial, like, giving you all the feels. It was just hockey players being like, if they could have tipped them over, they would have. And then we would always hear stories of, the coach would come in, Coach, I'm working so hard, I can't feel my legs, and that. But I think they just forget, like, these guys are running the goalie, chirping.
Yeah.
And I guess that's been your experience, right? It's just good old hockey players.
Yeah, for sure. We, even to this day, we still chirp each other. It's like you said, it's part of the game. But like I can remember back in the Sochi days, we had to go from the locker room to the practice rink, and we had to go outside to do it. And so our mode of transportation was like the airport luggage carts.
Yeah.
And so, man, if you had a video camera on us filming this, to see like kind of like just the convoy going through, it was funny, but at the same time, it's like, you have to think of creative ways to get from one point in life to the other, literally and figuratively.
No, it's an amazing story. And you really went on a heater, man. It's funny that Miller was here the same time as you, because, I mean, you look at the run you had in 2010 that led to the SB, all the shutouts, the gold, 3 golds in a row, 5 world championships. Were you just locked in for, I mean, what can you reflect on that time as an athlete? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I think it was something about the pressure that just helped me get dialed in. Every time the Paralympics would come around, you think about the fact that you're on, one of the biggest stages in the world. You get to showcase your abilities, and you've worked, above all, you've worked for the last 4 years to get to this moment. And so you don't want to let it slip away. And so that's definitely the times where I was most locked in. But I felt myself getting better as my career went on. Most people will say that, the focus goes away, it starts to go away, their body starts to deteriorate. But the more knowledge that I gained about the position and the sport as well, and what guys were doing differently, the more interested I started to become in it. And so, you get to that level, and you don't want to lose it. The coach of the sled team now, David Hoff, has a good saying. He says that nothing grows at the top of a mountain. And so, you think about that and how if you become complacent, then, there's no room for you to improve from there. And so I always tried to find different ways to challenge everybody else, and they always found different ways to try to challenge me. What always got under my skin was the celebrations that people had in practice when they scored on me. I'm like, we're on the same team. You guys are.
That's all over your this doesn't like getting scored on thing, which is a good thing generally for a goalie. But it seems like you take every goal personally.
I do, yeah, and like I said, some of the celebrations were excessive, but looking back, I understand it because guys really wanted.
You're talking about practice celebrations.
Talking about practice,
and looking back, you understand. Okay, I'm just making that clear.
Yeah, but I understand it as people wanted to score on me, and so now I don't take it personally as much. I see that they're in it to win it just like I was. And so it's fun to see the passion that people have because it's really not a sport for the faint of heart. You're grinding it out day in and day out. And I think in sled hockey, it's especially unique because your arms are your legs. So at the end of the day, if you're not conditioning yourself, then you're way behind the rest of the pack.
So our podcast and one of our foundational pieces is breaking the mold because of the Minnesota Wild fan base. Thanks to like your Blues, we had a good team last year. We go face the Blues, and then we didn't rise up to it, and we're trying to break this mold of a fan that has this self-fulfilling negative prophecy. Where I'm going with this is you seem to be breaking a mold here too, because goaltenders are known as weird dudes. You don't really seem all that weird, quite normal, in fact. Would you say that you've broken the mold of the weird goaltender?
I mean, some people would say that I fit that category, fit the bill, but
maybe on a competitive level.
You seem more Tom Brady like than you do like what was Brizgalov? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
You seem like you'd be wearing the C,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself as an outlier, but I think everybody has their own personality on the team, and that's what's always made us great is so many different backgrounds, so many different people along the way. But in the end, we've somehow been able to come together and just make it happen. And so, I don't know. I do get a lot of questions asked about being a goaltender. And one thing that I like to tell people, a story that I like to tell people is I was talking to Glenn Hall during one of our award ceremonies that we were at. And, he played so many years without a helmet and some years with, very minimal protection there. And I was talking to him and kind of describing the position and being a sled goalie and what it entails. And he was like, okay, so if I'm picturing this right, your head is basically the main target in the net. And I was like, yeah, that's a good way to put it. And he was like, how crazy do you have to be a sled hockey goalie?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is Glenn Hall, a guy that played, like majority of his career without a mask. And he's saying that I'm crazy.
Yeah, funny. That's great. I thought I'd be able to hear you coming before I saw you coming with all the hardware and all the medals that you have. You didn't sport them this afternoon, but where do you keep all of it? What do you do with all of it?
That's a good question, actually, because for so many years I kept it in my closet next to my bed.
That sounds about right.
But my fiance had just recently had made someone else made it, but she had it made. It was a puck holder, and then at the bottom of it were 4 hooks for my medals. So I just recently hung that up, put about 30 to 40 pucks on it, and then it worked out perfectly. 4 hooks for my medals, from the bronze in Torino to the gold in Pyeongchang in 2018. So it looks really nice. I can actually now say that they have a home.
Yeah,
it's
great.
not shoved away.
That's good.
For a rainy day kind of thing. So,
well, John, again, before we let you go here, big night tonight. Congratulations. Your speech, do you have it dialed? And I've got to give John credit for the question. What do you have planned for it? Any sparks? Are you nervous for it?
Definitely nervous. So nervous that I'm still actually working on it.
Well, then we'll keep you here longer.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me know if you have any ideas, but no, it's, I want to make sure that it's, that I get everything in there that I want to get in there. 'Cause there's so many people that definitely need thanking. And I keep hearing about new people that are coming to the dinner that I didn't know were coming before. So, the fact that they're there to support me, is great. And I want to make sure that everybody gets included that needs to be. And then along with everything else that I want to say, there's only we have a 10-minute time limit. I've been told that, I'm very soft-spoken and, I typically don't run over the time that I'm allotted. But I want to make sure that I get everything in there, and, I don't want to be too long-winded at the same time. So.
Well, it sounds like you're a gamer and you know how to perform in situations like that. So I'm sure you knock it out of the park. But if you don't have anything else for him, John, I want to say thanks for coming.
Yeah, just congratulations. I mean, it's a great honor. First, para-athlete in the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's a huge deal. I mean, in a world of
SB.
Yeah, SB, and obviously huge success on the international stage. So such a congratulations to you, and I hope you just have a wonderful night and soak it all up. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just want to end by saying that the fact that the Lamoureux twins are in just goes to show that the diversity that's coming through the pipeline in USA Hockey. And I'm excited to see what the future holds as well for women's sled and stand-up hockey as well. So
it's a great point.
Cool.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Enjoy the night. Thank you.
So that was Steve Cash. What a story, losing your leg when you're 3 to bone cancer. Didn't even really want to play, para hockey. Still had dreams of playing, stand-up hockey. And then he jumps in to the sledge and basically becomes the Patrick Waugh of sledge hockey.
Can you imagine how cool it would be to be like that great at something? I don't know that it's probably not easy for him, but when you look at like the numbers and what he's accomplished, it's like all of a sudden he just goes in there and he's just a juggernaut.
How about having 5 shutouts in the Olympics? No one scores on you in the entire Olympics. I mean,
That's what I mean.
I would just take my gear off on the ice and I would never play again. I think if you shut out the entire Olympics, you win an SB. That should be it. You're done.
I love that the dude's name is Cash and his nickname is Money, though.
Yeah, so when I went to the Hockey Hall of Fame induction deal in St. Paul, he's at this table right up front. He's got this huge posse from St. Louis. They love this guy. He has $100 bill in his sport coat pocket like it's a, what do they call those? What do they call the thing you put in your sport coat pocket? No, that's funny though. If you couldn't hear that, he said corsage, which shows that he dresses up a lot, race on ice, pocket square. So he had a $100 bill like a pocket square, and then he had a tie that was all money as well. And what I like about him is a lot of goalies are kind of, we also interviewed Ryan Miller, and they're kind of these cerebral, quiet dudes. This dude's like Tom Brady.
Like outgoing.
He's a leader. He's barking. He's, I bet his team's scared of him, because they want to win for him. But to be the first athlete ever, first para-athlete ever inducted into any Hall of Fame, I don't know how that took that long. And also, I think it's so wonderful that it was Steve Cash that got in there. That's just, what a great interview, especially starting the year, a little bit of inspiration.
I love what USA Hockey does too. USA Hockey does a good job. It's not just, there's a big tournament going on right now in the World Junior tournament. It's not just the World Juniors. Like, they do a great job with the women's program, with the para program. USA Hockey does a great job. We should quickly touch on the World Junior. Do you watch?
Yeah, I love the World Juniors. I've had trouble. This team has a lot of Gophers on it, which I like. They got Snuggerud.
This is a US team.
Yep, Snuggerud, Cooley. I watched the loss to Slovakia, which was pretty rough, but then they smoked Finland. The World Juniors is weird because it kind of doesn't matter till it matters. So I struggle a little bit with these pool play games because I've watched so many U.S. teams dominate pool play and then get bounced in the quarterfinals. But I'm going to be strapped in today for this Germany game, and then it gets real interesting when you get to the semis and the finals. It's always great when you play Canada as well if that happens. But a
couple of your golfers are having a nice little tournament statistically.
They are.
Snuggerud is third in the tournament in scoring.
He's a great player.
Yeah, Logan Cooley is fourth. Well, they're tied for third, I suppose. But the Americans really kind of kicking it in.
It's a little. The team's a little bit different. I find that when I watch them, they feel a little more individual. It feels like guys trying to, there's kind of this new generation of player. Luke Hughes is a good example on the blue line. They can do everything themselves. And so I think it's hard not to do that. And I just don't know. I hope they play a real nice team game as we get into the elimination round here, because I don't think you can dangle your way to gold medal in the World Juniors. The team has a little bit of individual kind of stuff.
I think that's the age group too.
Yeah, I completely agree, but it looks a lot different than when Zegras and Boldy and these guys were there, and it was like,
really, you think it looks different from that?
Yeah, because remember, Zegras was a big passer in World Juniors. He just fed dudes, and they had Caulfield and all those guys, and so it was like this amoeba. It was more like Russian hockey. This is a lot of guys kind of carrying the puck up the ice themselves, is what I see.
They want the cookies. They want to score, and they want to,
and they do score. They're very good players, and I hope they win gold, and they might. But it's been, when I'm watching it, it's decidedly different. Like, there's a lot of dudes trying to go end to end.
They might have to go through the Russians at some point, and the Russians, they're good at goal scoring. And actually, let's get back to our favorite Russian, Kirill Kaprizov.
Russians are not in the tournament, by the way.
Well, that's true.
They're banned. But a guy who's not banned, you want to talk face-off percentage? This is going to make our argument worse, though. We looked it up. Kirill was 55% last year, probably took 8 draws, or what was it? So we have no statistical evidence to really support this, but you ever see that meme carts where there's the guy on the side of the road holding the sign?
Yeah.
And the dude that
What's the sign, though?
I think it's just to say, let Kirill take face off. And I want someone in the crowd to just have that, and Dean sees it. It would be, I think it would work.
Kirill took 14 face-offs, or 9 face-offs last year. He won 5 of them.
Domination.
He's taken 4 this year.
And he's only won.
The one that you saw.
Really? Huh. That's not a good sample size. I worked in
That's not a
advertising.
good
You would
enough
throw
sample
that out.
size.
It's not enough.
But back to Kirill, 2022 calendar year, most goals scored by any player in the NHL. It was led by Austin Matthews. He had 58. Connor McDavid had 57. Pasternak had 57. And then Jason Robertson, 56, Kaprizov, 55. So in terms of that calendar year, I don't think Kaprizov gets enough credit for how good of a goal scorer he is. Like, he's 3 shy of Austin Matthews in the calendar year 2022 and the lead of the NHL.
I know, and I still think this rivalry with Robertson needs to be a real thing.
I think it might end up being.
It needs to be a real thing. That's the Ovechkin Crosby for Kirill.
Yeah.
It just is.
It
With
keeps
that
popping
Calder
up. The
Cup,
more it keeps
the
popping
fact that
up.
he's 1 goal ahead of him just bugs me. Like, even when you were reading that, it like almost. I know you were reading that as a tribute to Kirill, but the fact that Robertson was 1 goal ahead of him
Needled
was
ya?
like kind of like, you know.
Well, Robertson didn't get one in the Dallas game. Kirill did.
That's right. Kirill got one off the back of the melon. Take that. Bound to the train station you go. I think that's a natural rivalry there. American, Russian, little Rocky IV there. Robertson's a good player too. He kind of is. I keep waiting for him to go away. Like, it's not a real thing, but it's a real thing.
I know. I need to watch him more because
It must be really good.
I need to watch him more because I don't notice a ton of it. You know, like Kirill, you notice all the time, even when he's not scoring. And I don't know that the games that I've seen Robertson play that I'm noticing a lot.
Has
when
he
he's
always
not
been with
scoring.
Pavelski?
I don't know.
That's an interesting question. If even his rookie year he was with Pavelski,
But
because that's almost like one of those deals. You take Joe
Yeah.
away, and I don't know what is Robertson.
right.
You know, if he's
well,
not,
then you take
if he's
Zuki
not,
away. What is Kirill?
Kirill would be fine no matter what.
Yeah, and that's actually that actually makes
just from the
point
eye
that I'm-
test. Just from the eye test.
That makes the point that I was trying to make, that Kirill impacts the game all the time, all over the ice. It's not just when he's scoring.
Correct.
And I know that, and we know that because we watch it closely. I don't watch Dallas closely enough to know.
So
if
you're
Robertson
saying
does
Kirill
that.
Kaprizov's way better than Jason Robertson?
I would right now if I had to pick. Yeah, I'd pick him over him.
Hey, stay down, Jason. He is American, though. God bless you. But what else? And you want to? I want to ask you just maybe as we finish about Sam Steele, because I know I just listened to your broadcast, and I know you're really a fan of what he's doing and the way he's fit in. What are some things fans should look at? Because this world of peanut butter and jelly with Zuki and Kirill, there's this other guy there. He's like the Ringo Starr of the Beatles, right? How do we get into a appreciation society of Sam Steele? What are we looking at that he's doing well?
I think it's possible that he might be the fastest skater on the Wild.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I look at the pace that he plays with right now, and on the goal that he helped set up in St. Louis, it was all him, all pace. You know, and he's got skill and offense. Like, he wants to attack. He had good hands to get the puck through the first defender, change sides, and then Zuki ended up finding Matt Dumba. So it set that goal up in St. Louis. But I just like the way he plays too. And he's not like, and I keep saying this too. He's, for me, a moment that stands out is he set up Zuccarello, or it was a play. Zuccarello scores, and Zuccarello gave 2 points. Like, two-handed, double guns, boom, boom. One to Kirill, one to Sam Steele. For me, that was the Sam Steele is here kind of moment. You know what I mean? And I'm not taking anything away from Ryan Hartman. And I know the argument can be Ryan Hartman scores 30 between those guys. Sam Steele gets between them, and all of a sudden he's having, you know, his best stretch of hockey. You know, that's a plug and play. You can put anybody there and they're going to play well. But when you start to get the recognition from your teammates, those line mates, those guys, and they're saying, hey, that was a nice play, dude. You know, I like that. Or
yeah, and you saw Kirill gave him that crazy pass the other night to Steele, I believe, where he sauced it over the guy. I mean, he could have shot, right? So I think they're starting to feel the love with each other for sure.
And the way, and I think the line works a lot better because Sam Steele, he's not one of those guys that's out there just looking to get the puck into the hands of 97 or into the hands of Zuccarello so that he can find Kaprizov. It's a line. It's a trio. And again, that's where, for me, it goes back to the double point. Those two guys trust Sam Steele. They like playing with Sam Steele. They understand his skill set. I think they're still figuring out what he's totally capable of, but they get a lot more room and time with the puck out there because Sam Steele and the way that he plays. He's kind of like a middle lane dude. He looks like a perimeter player that he should be based on like his size, his skill, but he's not, right? He plays the middle of the ice and he attacks the net. He's kind of a grinder. He's a snot bubble guy, but he's not going to bulldoze you.
Do you think that he reminds you a little bit of how you played?
No.
And that's why you like him a little bit?
No.
No?
Not even a little. What I can say is that he has
I thought I was going to crack you open psychologically. It would have been so good.
Not even close.
No,
I wish.
Yeah.
You know, I would have loved to have been a first round draft pick. I just didn't have the talent that dude does. But pay attention to one thing I will say negatively about Sam Steele, but it also I think is a positive thing. He has maybe the grossest looking like blade curve stick combo.
Is it not? Why is it curved weird or is it not curved?
Oh, it's both.
Is it like long and then the end is bent?
Yeah, so the blade is like long, but then it's also like a flat lie. So it's not upright, it's kind of down. And then it's straight, and then the toe is just kind of bent up. And then it's also really thick, so it's like from top to bottom, the height of it.
Why is he doing that?
I don't know. And that's what we'll have to get him on here and ask him, like, how'd you develop this? Because it's nowhere near anything you can buy on a store shelf. He had to make this thing.
Maybe
I wonder if he's a whittler.
Maybe he drives a Wrangler like I do and he puts his stick and it's just all jammed.
It's almost like it got hot. He left it in the car over the summer.
Maybe.
And then he just accidentally ran it over. Like in a hurry, he like dropped the stick and didn't know, ran it over, and he comes out and all of a sudden he's like,
so he has like a cartilage blade.
Yeah, it's gross.
Oh my God.
But
I gotta watch that.
And I actually think that's one thing I appreciate about it too, is it's like, how do you get every pass to be flat? Like how do you make all these plays
when you're playing with like a
2x4?
That is, yeah, that's a good question. We got to get him on for sure.
We got to get a look at this stick too, but it's gross. It's gross.
Well, hey, I wanted to wish you Happy New Year.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And Happy New Year to all the listeners. Their new sponsor, Wild Construction, Duke Cannon taking care of Mr. Cash there on the interview, and as well as Jimmy's and Aquarius. Happy New Year to everybody from Wild on 7th. We're here.
Till it's here.